Paul, what is a sitzprobe?
A sitzprobe is when the cast and orchestra come together for the first time and basically sing through the score. So it's a very exciting day. I know a lot of actors say it's like Christmas. They call it Christmas Day.
It's the best day of the year, Paul. It's better than Christmas.
It's true.
Let's get this show on the road. Wherever you are, get in your car and come on down, enjoy a show. If it's your first time, well, jump on in. By the end of this drive, you'll be a Shavian. No, let's get this show on the road.
Hi, Kelly.
Hey, Spike.
How are you?
I'm great. We're doing a podcast.
We're doing a podcast, and oh my gosh, that theme song just kills me every time I hear it.
It kind of sticks in your head, doesn't it? So Travis Cito, who is a member of the company here, we asked him if he'd be willing to compose some music for the podcast. And this was the first jingle earworm that he came up with.
Out of the gate. I couldn't believe it. He sent it back so quickly. You know, it was like it was actually living inside him.
He's been waiting for this moment for years.
I think you're right.
Finally.
Let me out.
So for those of you who are listening, whether you're at home or you're driving to see us at the Shaw or whatever you're doing right now, we have been talking about doing a podcast here for years.
Yep. Yeah.
And we're finally making it happen.
It's unbelievable. It's really exciting. It was one of those things when we got the go-ahead, the green light to be able to actually start putting these pieces in place. You know, there was an idea floating around. I was just wrapping up a second season of my other podcast, Finding Creativity, and just sort of thinking that, oh, maybe I don't know if there's going to be a season 3, feeling a bit low about the fact that I love it. I think it's a really exciting thing to do. And out comes this offer, just like, hey, and then
do a podcast?
Yeah, and you and I have never worked together. Like as of all the seasons we've been here.
Not in this capacity.
No.
Maybe I'll introduce myself.
Oh yeah, that's
Hi.
a good idea.
Hi. I'm Kelly Wong. I've been a member with the ensemble here at the Shaw for 17 years now.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's
Holy smokes.
It's one of those things that
Creeps up on you, hey?
Well, it creeps up on you, but also like I never thought that I would be here in my wildest dreams, let alone,
amazing.
You know, this many years later. But primarily people will know me for my work on stage.
Yeah.
But I've really taken a fondness to doing a lot of this type of digital work off stage as well. I do some video production work for different development campaigns in the education department and sometimes social media. So when TC asked if you and I would be a part of this, I thought, I would love to, but I don't really know what I can bring to the table. But as it started to unfold, I'm really loving the producer aspect of this.
So I would have said the opposite, just having done the process of getting us sort of together and the production of this rolling. I would have said the exact opposite about you. I would have thought this was your regular other job that you did. Honestly, just to how easy it's been and how clear you have been on the way you want to organize things and put those ideas together and really have a shape and a vision for it. It's been really exciting to come alongside that. And for our listeners, my name is Alexis Milligan, but people here at the Shaw Festival know me as Spike. And I will say there is a generational line for people who know who Spike Milligan was and people who don't know who Spike Milligan was.
And I fall on the side that does not.
So it's around our age, Kelly. The older generations would remember Spike Milligan as a satirical cartoonist. He was a poet, a writer, very much an inspiration for Monty Python. But that's where I got my nickname. So today, we're going to be chatting with Kimberley Rampersad and Paul Sportelli. Kimberley is the Associate Artistic Director here at the Shaw Festival. She's been in that position for a number of years now. Folks would have seen her performing. She's been in the musicals here. And one of those wonderful stories, we have so many of them here at the Shaw, of people who have transitioned into other ways of working, who maybe have gone from performers to working in the administration as producers for the company, and others who have gone into, like, again, something like you, where you're exploring these kind of different avenues. Kimberley has found her way into this really incredible leadership position as the Associate Artistic Director and also director. People may have seen her Man and Superman that she did, the Amen Corner, My Fair Lady, and now for Anything Goes, she is both director and choreographer.
And then Paul Sportelli. Paul is a music director for the entire festival. He has his hand in everything that we do that involves music here. I first worked with him in my first season doing Sunday in the Park with George.
You were in that?
I gotta say, I was, and it was such an incredible experience to come here to this place that I had held up on a pedestal for so long, and then to be surrounded by the incredible team that we had for that show.
Amazing.
And so they're both working on Anything Goes, which I am lucky enough to be a part of this year. And I got to say, anyone who comes to see this is in for such a treat. We have so much fun in this show. The flood of endorphins that I get. The music's great. The dancing is incredible. I think that people are really, really going to enjoy what they see.
And since this is our first episode in the series, one of the features that we're going to have through every episode is we actually sat down with TC and we asked him why Anything Goes, or why that particular show. Why did he program it? And what is he actually looking forward to seeing in the production?
Let's hear what he has to say.
Oh, well, pretty much everything is lovely about it. It comes from a real golden age of Broadway writing. It's no accident that one of the writers of the original book is P.G. Wodehouse, whose sense of humor is second to none. He's the author of the Jeeves books, of course. And even though there's now a new book, it contains and preserves a great deal of the wit and joie de vivre of the original. So that's lovely. It's a very, very funny book. I have to say, when we start working out which musical we're going to do in a year, Paul Sportelli and Kimberley Rampersad and I, we sit around in Paul Sportelli's front room. We always have the same elements in order to keep it as a strict scientific laboratory experiment. So we always have black coffee, we have watermelon, and we have croissant. And we have the scripts, and we read in silence the scenes, and then when we all nod, we play the next song, and we listen to that, and then we go back to reading. Well, I think we knew pretty soon with our reading, our listening party, as we call it, for Anything Goes, that we were going to do it, because the silence as we read was punctuated by laughter. We kept on giggling at the script, and that's pretty rare, because we're all hard-bitten professionals who would tend to read something like that and go, yep, yeah, that's funny, that'll work. But we were actually bursting out laughing. So the fact that we had that reaction to the book was kind of the end of the debate, because we already knew, for goodness sake, the songs with De Lovely, with Blow Gabriel Blow, with I Get a Kick Out of You. I mean, it's bonkers how lovable and adorable the music is. And then the sort of cherry on the top of the cake is tap dancing, which I think of myself these days as a pusher, because our audience are addicted to tap dancing, and I am happy to provide them with it.
Ten years ago was my first contract here, Sweet Charity. And I remember I was working at the other festival, at the Stratford Festival, and they had auditions in I think the late summer, and I remember borrowing a car from somebody so that I could make my way from Stratford into the distillery to, was it Dance Works where the auditions were? And I remember going in and I wanted to work at the Shaw desperately, and I wanted to do this play especially, but I had to not stress out about it, which was hard. You know what I mean? Because you can't grip too hard. You have to be joyful. So I just said, you know what? I just need to go and do my best and have a really good time. And I think I did that. I had a really enjoyable time, like dancing and singing and doing the things that we do for the audition. And the cuts were happening and I was still in the room and the anxiety is going and your heart rate is just going, like you can barely see straight because you know that you're close and you have to, again, not grip too hard, but you have to summon everything inside of you and say, if I think I'm the artist that I am, I actually need to deliver in this moment. I've auditioned for the Shaw Festival and for Paul a few times. So he was always so kind. So that was kind of nice, even just having a familiar face. Then I had to let it go after the audition. And then I was getting ready for a show and the phone rang and it was Jackie Maxwell who was on the phone, the artistic director. And it was like, it wasn't a video call, but I felt like it was a video call. As soon as she said who it was, I tried to I stood up straighter and I just tried to be fancy. And I was just like, hello. And it was so ridiculous. And she said, hi, Kimberly, it's Jackie here. And I was just stunned. Like, how many artistic directors call up a potential new artist on their personal phone? They're not going through your agent, calling you. And Jackie said, an offer is coming to you. But before you get the offer, I would love to talk to you about the Shaw Festival, what we do, how we work, give you more of the ethos. So I'm coming down to Stratford. Would you like to have a coffee with me?
Oh my gosh.
Shocked face.
Oh my gosh.
Shocked face.
Wow.
And I was just like, are you... Yes. So I went down to the little coffee shop, the Balzacs, and we sat in the back and this beautiful artistic director spoke to me about the Shaw Festival, what the festival is about, what her ethos is, what this festival as an art house, like just the way that she likes to work, what this festival was built on, what she was aspiring to, how I could be a part of the community and what the Shaw could also give me. So the reciprocity that could happen there in the potential. She said the offer will come. She's like, someone else will talk to you about numbers and all those different kinds of things, but I just want to speak to you about the art and the heart of it. And I have never felt more special in my life as an artist to be like, this woman is coming to chat with me about what this place is and what's happening.
And you, the person, not just a for-hire performer, but you, the person, and what you can bring to the Shaw Festival as part of this vision that she has and the way that you would come into the fold, but like also what it could give back. I mean, we talk about an exchange of dreams.
Yeah, I was just struck by the amount of care and the amount of precision in the moment. Yeah, it was remarkable. And then I came here and I've loved every moment of it. And it's nice that Paul is here because I always like to say it because you never want to say it when people are gone. Paul is one of the most extraordinary artists I will ever work with in my life. And I learn more from him in any given moment than I probably have from almost anybody else. So the idea that Paul was in the room and brought me here and said, yeah, she won't ruin things. And then let alone teaches me and I can collaborate with him is really quite extraordinary.
I always say to people when they ask about, this wildlife that I have living on the East Coast and working here at the festival, people sort of say, why? And I always have to say, because the people I work with make my work better. I actually grow as an artist in my practice and as a person in my own humanity for the people that I work with. And I would say, Paul Sportelli, as Kimberley has just iterated, you embody this. I have certainly gained so much from our time working together on the various shows that we did during the last few seasons. But how did the Shaw find you? I mean, how did it cross your path?
Well, first of all, I want to say you're both very kind in your words. And I also just want to add, I remember Kimberley's audition that day. And I just thought this is an extraordinary artist. And she is so right for Sweet Charity. She's got the right personality and energy for it. So that's an audition I remember very well and very fondly, Kimberly. So how I came to Shaw, it's actually a pretty good story. In 1985, I was doing a tour of the musical Evita. We were playing Toronto. I was a keyboardist in the orchestra, and some of my actor friends in the show said, we're going to go to the Shaw Festival. It's this really great place. The acting is really, really good. And so we came to see a show at the courthouse, The Women, and I loved it. I just thought, oh, this is an extraordinary place. Then in 1998, the music director of the Shaw Festival at the time was leaving, and there was an opening for the music director of the festival. And a lot of my actor friends, most of whom had worked at the Shaw, said, you should apply. You'd love it. You'd love it. And I remembered seeing The Women back in 1985 and thinking, yeah, I really had a great time at the show that day and I liked what I saw. So I applied for the job, and long story short, I got the gig.
Holy smokes. And you've been doing it ever since.
I've been doing it ever since. Yeah, this is my 27th season.
No way. Paul Sportelli. That's a wild thing. So what drew you, maybe Paul, we can keep going down this path. Like, what drew you to music directing? What was that thing that actually sort of hit you first about what this job is and how you could actually make your career in it?
I loved musical theater from a very, very early age. My mom used to appear in community theater all the time, and she would bring me to rehearsals. I think it was kind of like, that's easier than a babysitter. And a lot of the parents would do that. But while most of the kids were out in the parking lot playing ball or something, I was in the rehearsal hall watching rehearsals, just mesmerized. So I was bitten by the musical theater bug at a very early age. So in junior high school, I was the music director for our junior high and high school productions. In my last couple of years of high school, I started working as a music director at that same community theater, the Bristol Civic Theater, Bristol, Connecticut. But then I put it on hold for a while. I thought I wanted to pursue a career in classical music. So got all my training in classical music as far as one can go with all of that. I did my master's and doctorate in New York City at the Manhattan School of Music. And while I was in New York, I started kind of getting involved in theater through the back door, in a way, I want to say. I started playing in piano bars and restaurants that had singing waiters. So I met a lot of New York actors, and then they asked me to coach them. Then sometimes they asked me to play their auditions. One day when I was playing someone's audition, it was for Les Mis. It turned out Les Mis needed a rehearsal pianist and a substitute keyboardist at that point. And they asked me if I'd be interested in that. And so I slowly got involved in theater in New York, finally actually getting the gig at Andrew Lloyd Webber's Aspects of Love as the keyboardist or pianist in the orchestra, because it was, in those days, it was a real piano, and being an assistant conductor. I was sort of third in command on that show. And so the pendulum kind of swung back, and I realized at that point that I was actually better suited to a career in musical theater. It felt like a better fit. As much as I love performing classical music, I think it's like the theater called me back after all those years immersed in the academic world and classical music.
And what about you, Kimberly? This journey from dancer, performer, actor, choreographer, director, when did you first start encountering choreography? And then how did that lead to that transition into directing?
I think I met choreography when I was really young, because I used to choreograph a lot when I was growing up too, like in our school musicals, because I danced. So we would do a musical and they'd be like, oh, Kimberly, could you do this little number for us? And by the time I was in grade 12 and we did the pajama game and I was in it, but then I choreographed the musical too. So, and we always goofed around at the dance studio. One of our favorite things to do when we were at the studio in between classes was to choreograph. We would set things on one another. Sometimes we'd make up our own duets, and in dance competitions, there was self-choreography. So I think I always was interested in choreography. It didn't feel hard or anything. It was just kind of a natural extension of let's play with all the steps that I'm learning and let's put them together and let's find a way to express myself and let's put it on somebody else. One of my favorite things was to put it on somebody else and watch how they would make it come alive and be like, oh, that's what that movement could also mean. So I think it was just pretty easy in terms of like my connection with it. It was just something that we just did for fun.
And then how does directing come out of that? I mean, you could draw some connections, but directing is also a very different beast.
Yes, it is. I think that there's so many ways that I come to directing. I think it was deep down inside that it's just been a progression. It's a progression of just where my artistry is. I was always curious, or I always was, I was fascinated as I was performing, because I started in the ensemble before I started playing parts because of my dance background. And because I had such a strong dance background, I'd be the dance captain. So I'd find myself in the rehearsal halls all the time, even if it wasn't for me as the performer, but to watch choreography in between scene work. And I became fascinated with just how the whole room runs, the relationships. I loved it, and listening, and then all of a sudden I'd be like, oh, I wonder if the director will say this, or, you know, the actor didn't take that note. I think they needed to say it this way. And as I would think these things to myself, then the director would, a lot of the time, they would do it. Like they would see the thing and I'd be like, oh, give myself a little pat on the back. I was like, aren't I clever? And then all of a sudden it started happening more. And then I was biting my tongue a little bit because it wasn't my place to speak on these things, which I absolutely understood. But what I thought was, oh, is there a director in me? Because I was so hungry and I was kind of like pulsing at the side, kind of like a horse in the gate. I was just like, oh, is this what's happening? So it's a bunch of those things. It's also where my art and my politics meet in terms of the things that I'm interested in this world. Who gets to be in the room? What are the stories that we're telling? A director is able to really to help shape that in a way. As a performer, I didn't have the agency because it's not in the purview of a performer to shape some of these things. So I think all of those things, plus I think I'm highly opinionated. Everybody keep a straight face. All of those things have led me to directing. And also, I just really love it. I really love directing. I really love working with people. I really love watching people shine. And I love being people's number one cheerleader. It brings me so much joy.
Well, this is a really interesting transition. Just picked up on these stories that we tell. And we have this story of Anything Goes. And this major musical, for those people out there, some of our listeners might absolutely know Anything Goes, but it's also one that isn't done or hasn't been done in a little bit. I'm curious, where in the canon of musicals that were coming out at this time, where does Anything Goes fall?
I think this musical, because it's from the early 30s, it was of a time when we weren't thinking about the musical canon yet, to be perfectly honest. It really starts in the 40s with Oklahoma, that we start thinking about the fully integrated musical where all the elements are coming together to support the storytelling. And since Oklahoma, most musicals are written in sort of the Rodgers and Hammerstein mold of that integrated musical. And then we started thinking of these pieces as really important. And then the sense of canon emerged. But in the 30s, there was much more of a sense, and there's nothing wrong with this, there was much more of a sense of these musicals are an entertainment. They're fun. Cole Porter knows how to write musicals. They would book theaters in New York for the next Cole Porter musical before he had even written it. And he would write it, and it would run for maybe a year. And they didn't think about Anything Goes being an important piece that's going to enter the canon. It, of course, has now entered the canon. You know, musical theater was very young in the 30s, and there was much more of a sense of what's Cole Porter written? Oh, let's go see the latest Cole Porter. So there was a looser feel. The other thing I would say is Anything Goes is a real musical comedy, not just a musical, but a musical comedy. And that is a different sort of animal. And I love it. I mean, I did the show back in 2018 at Arena Stage, and I had the best time. I love when I do a show and I end up having a better time than I think I might, and I wasn't really sure if I would like doing Anything Goes. It's such a good time. And I will also say that I'm having as good a time, if not a better time, here at Shaw, where we find ourselves in the rehearsal process.
I think what I would just add is that it's new in 1934, and it's the birth of three things, or three American things: the musical theater, jazz music, and tap dancing. And all three of these things are going side by side by side as they're birthing themselves into one another and independently. And I think that that's what I love about it. It's the freshness of it, and that it doesn't take itself seriously because it doesn't even know what it is yet. And I think that that's really exciting, that it is right in that space where it's like Busby Berkeley and heading towards Oklahoma, but it's sitting in this really sweet spot too, where we're also visiting musicals on film and also on the stage. And they're both highly popular, and they're not in competition with one another. There's no idea of scarcity. So there's no angst around this musical in that sort of way. There's a real joie de vivre in it. We've been talking about that in our production, especially about that being just important in these days and times, that we have to embrace that as an important thing that we're adding to the world at this moment.
In terms of the songs that are in it, say Anything Goes, would that song have been out in the universe before this musical presented it? Would audiences have heard the song Anything Goes and then they go see this show with that song in it?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure the answer is no. Usually in this period, and really right through the 40s and 50s, you would get these songs written for the specific show, but then they would be covered by popular artists of the day, and they would become radio hits. And so you would get to know Anything Goes, say, in the weeks or months after it opened in New York.
Wow, so audiences would be hearing that song for the first time, as opposed to it being a standard or having been played before, and then they go see a show that's sort of attached to that song.
That's right.
Interesting. So this version, it's been updated. And I'm wondering about that process of selecting this version and that process of updating, because in some ways, we here at the Shaw Festival, we want to make sure that a lot of classical work remains in its original state, but then at times there does need to be some work done in terms of updating a musical or a play. And I'm just wondering, what is it about this version, and how did you come to connect with this particular one as opposed to any of the others?
I believe we started by looking at the version that Paul did at Arena as a jump-off point, because it was a modern version, because the play has ideas and things of the time that we would not find acceptable. I mean, they weren't acceptable then, but especially with the people that come to the theater now and what we know, they actually are a disservice to the heart of what the piece is actually trying to do. And they didn't realize it, or maybe they did and they didn't. Anyways, no judging, just it was not helpful. It's not helpful to the time. It's not helpful to the piece, and it takes you out of it. So knowing that a responsible theater had done it recently, we used that as a jump-off point. And then because there were some things that were addressed in terms of like just sort of the embedded racism and sort of the exoticism and things like that, there were some edits that were done, but some of the edits were overcompensation. So some of those things like naming Luke and John, they were Luke and John, and then they rewrote them and they called them Spit and Dippy. And that's fine, except Spit and Dippy doesn't tell us the story about these two gangsters that have been hopefully rehabilitated by a minister who has now renamed them Luke and John after, disciples and after books in the Bible. So we went back and we call them Luke and John because we're just like, that helps tell the story. Yeah, I think that's kind of where it's at. You want to be mindful of not apologizing, but also not hurting.
When I was doing the show, I believe the version we are doing is a book by John Weidman. And he did the book for the Patti LuPone version that was done at Lincoln Center in the 1980s. So that's the version of the show that is sort of the genesis of our script and our show. And when Molly Smith decided to do the show at Arena, she asked John if he would consider doing any rewrites on the book for some of the problematic things that Kimberley was talking about. And he agreed to. So he was with us in rehearsals some of the time and did rewrites, and they worked really well. And at the end of his time with us, he said, I'm happy with these rewrites, but I don't think my work is done. I think I want to do more. So then we found out that he had indeed done more. We got a hold of this new script and we thought, this is great. This really works well. And I was able to refer back to my memories of 2018 at Arena. And I thought, I do believe that he has improved the script even more. And we all got very excited about doing the show at that point.
So what's it like to work together? I mean, you have this great history together, but how does it work in a rehearsal room where you've got director, choreographer, and music director? How do you teach everybody everything? But also, what is that relationship between the two of you?
I would say, I think Kimberley and I have an extraordinary working relationship, and it's something that I feel happened quite naturally. It's not a relationship where we struggled and had to figure out how to work together. We think very much the same. We may come at things from different angles, but I think we're both supremely interested in getting the best out of people and finding the language to get them excited about the material. And I think another thing that just made Kimberley's and my relationship even closer is during the pandemic, when theater basically shut down, the Shaw Festival was pretty extraordinary in keeping things going on. And we were doing these outdoor concerts that we curated. We did a Duke Ellington concert, a Dorothy Fields concert, a Cole Porter concert. And, they were extraordinary times. And we were all looking for ways to move forward and dealing with a lot of stuff, right? Both as individuals and communally. And I think somehow Kimberley directed all of those concerts and I music directed them. And I think there was something about our work together during that time that just made the relationship even stronger. And so I always go into every collaboration with Kimberley just with a great deal of excitement and a really open heart, because I know I'm going to have a wonderful time collaborating with this really terrific colleague of mine.
And I want to expand on that, Kimberley. How soon do you and Paul get together and start talking about this production? I mean, how long have you been working on Anything Goes before you even got to the first day?
Well, we're like a river. Sometimes we break apart and we come back together, but we're always both moving forward. So once we know we're both working on the piece, we talk about casting. What are our needs? What are the needs of the show vocally? What do we think our show is going to be? Or at least where are we going to head off together? Like when we start crafting it, because it'll never be that in the right way, because it'll always be something new as you add more people. But we have an idea about who is going to inhabit these characters. So we have to come together on that, because we need to agree and feel confident in who it is that we're asking to play these parts. We need to believe in that together. So that's always a good time too, because even there, we're able to talk about our show and we're able to find out more just in that process, which is a lot of fun when you get to imagine who might embody this character, who might play this. And all of a sudden now we're talking about the show and things are coming together. Once we do that, I believe Paul is off into orchestration land. It's tremendous what he does, orchestrating everything. And as he's going through that, he'll send me, hey, Kimmy, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? It's incredible. And then once we start getting closer, then he'll be like, okay, here's a rehearsal track. And okay, here are 3 different versions that, either Ryan or the assistants, any of the, whether it's the Metcalf music intern has been tasked with something already as they're getting ready to come. They found 3 different versions from 3 different productions. Which one would you like? Which orchestration are you enjoying? And we get to go back and forth. So then we're doing that. And then when we get into the room, it's so much fun. Paul gets to teach the music first and lay the bed down, right? Because it's a musical. The music, it's got to be there. So then I listen sometimes. I come in for a little bit, but then also too, it's a very intimate time where the actors can be with their music director and not feel like their director is there. Because we're all directors. I direct with the text, the choreographer directs through movement, the music director directs through the music, but there's three directors is what there is. Apparently, some people would say that there's some sort of hierarchy, but there's not. And in fact, if there is, it's going to be the music director because it's a musical. It's not a dancical and it's not a textical. It's a musical. But it's really true. Like when we're in the space and we're doing runs and things like this, Paul is always so great, but I am always like, please go to center. This is your thing. I'm like, I know who runs this show. You stand on 0, sir, or whoever is conducting, and you be right there. I'll be over your shoulder trying to not distract things. And it doesn't stop me from being the director, understanding who is the music director, right? Like these are important things. But then we also have fun because Paul is so collaborative. I'll be like, oh, what about this section? What if we do a little something here? And he's like, oh, I could put a little stank on that for you, Kimmy. And we do these different things. You know what I mean? Or like even when we were doing the sits probe and there was something and I was like, oh, Paul, do you think this could be tacit? And he's like, I got you. And we did it. And when we were doing it on stage in the tech run and it was tacit and everyone on stage went wild because they were like, oh, that's so cool. And I was just like, I love working with Paul. And then we name sections too, because there's so much music. I'll title each unit and call it something silly. And Paul loves it. And then Paul will use that name for everything. And then Ryan D'Souza, the associate, will use it. And then the interns will use it. Anyways, I have such a fun time. Paul doesn't make me feel insecure about not knowing things and sharing them with him so that we can find the answers together, which is so liberating. I don't worry about not knowing things. I feel like I can be incredibly vulnerable around Paul and that he respects me. And I hope that, anyways, I just think he's the most remarkable human.
Well, you brought up my next question because I have a question for each of you. It's very, very specific. Paul, what is a sits probe?
A sits probe is when the cast and orchestra come together for the first time and basically sing through the score. So it's a very exciting day. I know a lot of actors say it's like Christmas. They call it Christmas Day.
It's the best day of the year, Paul. It's better than Christmas.
It's true.
Sits probes can be done in various configurations. My favorite way of doing it is for us to all just be in a rehearsal room together. Because after the sits probe, the orchestra goes into the orchestra pit, never to be seen again by the actors. So I love it at the sits probe that the actors can see the musicians playing and the musicians can see the actors singing. And you basically put the show together. At that point, it's quite new for the musicians. They've usually had like 10 to 12 hours of rehearsal. So maybe we've made a pass of the whole score with the orchestra alone. And maybe then half of the songs we get to rehearse a second time and do a bit of refining on them. So it's also an exciting day because there's still so much work to do. And there's so many questions from the musicians, but it's a thrilling day. And I always love to look over at the cast, whether it's the overture that we're playing for them or we're kicking off the opening number, and to just see the look on their faces when they're hearing it from the orchestra as opposed to from a piano. You can see many of them just being overwhelmed with excitement and happiness, for sure.
Okay, Kimberly, my question for you is, what is a Wandel probe?
Oh, so that's when the orchestra goes into the pit and the actors are on the stage now and everything is going through the sound department and we're mixing it now in the theater. So the actors are still having their mind and their focus on the music, the singing, what they're hearing and what they need from the sound department in terms of like, oh, I need some piano. I need, some more percussion because we're tapping and I need to hear that a little bit more. And that's neat too, because in our Wandel probe, we had to tap dance as well because we have all of the tap sounds coming through the soundboard as well and being put into the mix. So that's something really special too that happens during the Wandel probe. So it's kind of like Christmas 2.0. in a sense, because you get it again, but it's in the space. My dream though is that one day I could get $1 bajillion so that we could have a retractable cover over the orchestra pit, because my dream is to have an open pit for a musical at the Shaw Festival. It is my greatest desire to have an open pit, because we have such extraordinary artists in the orchestra. Selfishly, I want them to be seen. We have the idea that we still have so many musicians and they are world class. Like, I love it when I listen to the radio and all of a sudden I'm like, I work with them. I was like, they play in our orchestra and I'm listening to them on Jazz FM right now as they're doing a whole show and they're telling me about what they're going to do at the racks. And then they're coming down here and they're laying it down. I was just like, these are the people that we work with and I want them to be seen. I also selfishly want the musicians to see the actors and the actors to see the musicians, more so when they're dancing, and to be able to glance up and to see and feel one another. It's magic, because I know it's so much fun when we're on the stage and we get interaction with Paul or whoever else is conducting. Like, it's a singular experience, but to be able to amplify that and say, oh, it's not just Paul, that, what, if we do Blow Gabriel Blow and then all of a sudden Jason is just wailing, in my dream the pit would be open so that either one, I could say, Jason, you're going to stand, or two, can we get the spot on top of him? I just think an open pit would just be revolutionary. And so anyways, I'm just here for the open pit, or at least the retractable. This is what I want.
You know what? Dreams can come true, Kimberly.
This is
so
it.
Now it's out. It's said you're in the universe. Someone's driving along to the Shaw Festival to come and see Anything Goes right now. And they are saying, we're going to make that dream come true.
Bless.
That's what's going to happen. I have just 2 other questions for you both, and then we will wrap it up. But my next question is about your internship programs, because there is a really important learning piece that exists here at the Shaw Festival, that our work as artists is never done, that we are constantly in a state of professional development. And we do have that embodied in our philosophy here as an organization. And I just wanted to touch base on, even just briefly, the directing intern program and the music directing in the Metcalf intern program. So what are these programs? And just what are your hopes that the people who come through a program like this, what do you hope they take away from their experience and their time at the Shaw Festival?
I think training is really important. It's something I value a lot. My parents were both school teachers, and I think there's a little bit of a teacher in me. I know that when I was coming up in musical theater, and things are a little different now. When I was coming up, there wasn't any one place where you could get everything you needed to know, every tool in your toolkit, so you're ready to go as a music director. So pretty early on in my time here as music director, I talked to people in administration about setting up music director internships here at Shaw. And we've been very fortunate with working with the Metcalf Foundation. We've applied for grants virtually every year, and most often we do get grants from the Metcalf Foundation to have these music internships. I like to focus on what I consider the essentials of music direction, so that, I say to them, when I send you out the door at the end of the season, you're going to have all the basics and all the sort of the pillars, all the foundations to be able to go out there and flourish. But then in addition to that, I let the interns know that the internship can also be about things that interest them. So some of them might be interested in orchestration. Some might be interested in arranging, theater composition, keyboard programming. There's all kinds of things. Those things don't take the place of what I consider to be the pillars that they're going to learn, whether they like it or not. But they always want to learn these things. But then each internship becomes its own thing because of the interest of the intern. And they're long internships, it's the length of the season. So I let them know, we can be many months into this internship and you can have an idea of something that you'd like to learn, or how can you work with people at Shaw and figure out something that you would like to do. So it could be something like, one music intern wanted to do a workshop of a new Canadian musical, and we made that happen for her. So it's very satisfying to me to be bringing these people, kind of lifting them up and getting them ready for a career in musical theater. And then also just tailoring each internship to their particular interests. So it's very satisfying. And the other thing, it's a win-win for me on two levels. First of all, I'm a real advocate of beginner's mind and just always returning to the basics. And when you're teaching someone about the importance of a proper upbeat as a conductor, because that's going to set up the tempo, you can be sure that the next time I get up to conduct, I'm thinking about that as well. I'm like, yeah, you can't take that for granted. And then the other thing is they're always way better at technology than I am. And so they teach me things. Last year,
kids.
These kids. Last year, I took it to a new level. It was like probably day one with Athena So, who was our Metcalf intern. And I could see her watching me doing something on my computer. And the look on her face led me to say to her, if you know an easier way to do what I'm about to do, you could tell me. And that holds for the entire internship. And I learned so much.
Wow. So that exchange, it is the exchange of learning.
An exchange for sure.
That's amazing. And Kimberly, what about the directing intern program?
Oh, yes. So this beautiful program, the Neil Monroe Directors Project that I help facilitate, is a program that's been going on here for over 30 years. Named after the late Neil Monroe, who was one of the most influential artists who has worked here as an artist, as a director, and as an associate artist in leadership. And it is to take two emerging or mid-career artists who are especially interested in the work that we are doing at the Shaw Festival, in Shavian work, in big ideas, in heavy text, and assisting them in having experience and giving them the experience to not only lift those kinds of work and execute them, but also how to work in a repertory company, which is also unique to the Shaw Festival. There are only 2 rep companies in Canada, 3 in North America. We happen to be the second largest. And so there's an importance to us making sure that we're showing people how to work in the space, and or too, in the same way for them with new ideas to show us a different way to work within this model that we have, so it can keep on evolving and it can refine itself. So we only choose 2 because that's what we have the capacity for, because a part of the project is them doing a show. And so we have to be able to have resources for them. But it's dear to me because it's a program that I participated in my second season here, and it changed my life. And so I feel a great responsibility to try and assist people in having a similar experience as I have. Coming to do this program really put me on a path. And it's my job then to make sure that I return that favor. And the work that these directors do now, they're all over the country, all over North America, not only directing, but leading theater companies, creating new works. Anyways, it's just really important, and it's a part of the job in terms of mentorship and training and investing in community and enriching community. And because we're such an institution and an organization, we have a responsibility. But I really love it too. I love watching people thrive, and I love supporting them in their work.
Okay, final question. We've got some folks, they're in their cars, they're on their planes, they're walking their dog, they just pulled out their program. They are coming to Anything Goes. Tickets are booked, they're on the road. Is there something that when they sit in their seats and those lights go down and we hear, I mean, I'm already thinking, oh, I'm going to watch for that upbeat. Oh my God. But is there something that you would say, just look out for this moment? Or is there like a little Easter egg or a little something that they've just come and they've got a little bit on the inside track of something that either is a special moment for you that you love, or something that was just keep an eye out for this moment without giving too much away?
Okay, so here's my Easter egg. For those of you who saw My Fair Lady last year, there's a number called the Ascot Gavotte, and it's a horse race. And so we needed to have a bell, and we did research about what does the Ascot bell sound like and put it into the keyboard. Keyboard triggers the sound. And in the song, You're the Top, it's one of Cole Porter's List songs. You're this, you're that. A wonderfully colorful, fun, whimsical lyric. But what I was looking for in my orchestral adaptation is how to basically do some word painting. You want to look at what the lyric is at any particular moment and see if there's something you can do in the orchestration to support that or to boost that, to give it even more color. And so when the lyric goes, "You're the Derby winner," I thought, well, why not fly in our Ascot bell from last season? So if you want to listen after that lyric, and what I'm really happy about, it really rings out quite clearly. So there's my little something to listen for.
Oh, that's great. Okay, Kimmy.
I think Matt Alfano, who's the associate choreographer, and I really wanted to put nods to different iconic moments and iconic dancers in musical theater. So I would love for you to look for some Fred Astaire. I would love for you to look for some Sid Charisse, Girl Hunt. I would love for you to look for some Sammy Davis Jr. and some Mr. Bojangles. I'd love for you to look for some Ann Miller. I would love for you to look for some Gregory Hines. We've tried to really pull from all kinds of different eras, but give a real nod to all of the things that Matt and I really love about musical theater, why we love musical theater, the history, the rigor, and the shoulders that we stand on. So take looks for that and see if you can catch some of them.
Oh my gosh, amazing. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for your time and energy today. It's been really great talking to you.
It's been great talking to you too.
Thank you for having us.
Anything Goes is playing until October 4th. Tickets available at shawfest.com.
A big thank you to Kimberley Rampersad and Paul Sportelli for joining us on the road today. And thank you, as always, for listening. If you have questions, thoughts, or just want to say hello, drop us a line at podcast@shawfest.com.
Let's Get This Shaw on the Road is hosted by Alexis Milligan and produced by me, Kelly Wong. Original music by Travis Cito. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to us right now. Follow the show to get new episodes in your feed every Thursday. And if you're enjoying it, leave us a review. It helps others discover the show and join in on the conversation.
Next week, we are joined by Selma Dmitrievich and Judith Bowden. We'll chat about some of the process of building The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, a bit of art and life, and also the practicalities of just getting the job done.
We hope you'll come along for the ride.
See you then.
Let's get this show on the road.